All right. Thanks everybody for coming out. Really happy to chat all things Bitcoin and all things Core with you guys. So to quickly kind of summarize, Core is a L1 blockchain that's powered by Bitcoin, fully EVM compatible, and trying to unlock the $1 trillion of trapped Bitcoin liquidity. Before we jump into it, I want to take everybody back 10 years ago. 10 years ago, there was no way to take your Bitcoin stack and earn passive yield. If you wanted to go out and earn additional Bitcoin, you had to engage in maybe risky lending or become an amazing trader, which isn't necessarily what all of us are the best at. Well, now with Core in this BTC-Fi ecosystem, you can earn passive yield or engage in a whole bunch of new applications that are trying to unlock additional Bitcoin utility. A little bit about me. So I've been in the crypto space for quite a long time. I've been helping the Core team go 0 to 1. And then prior to that, I was at Coinbase leading money movements engineering for 3.5 years, helped move a couple $1 trillion, but I'm a 0 to 1 guy. So the Core opportunity was something that I couldn't pass up. And I've been passionate about crypto for a really long time. So I fell down the crypto Bitcoin rabbit hole more specifically back in 2013. And in 2013, this idea of this non-sovereign store of value, this perfect digital gold, just absolutely blew my mind. I couldn't believe anything like this was even possible. And just at that point, there was such this amazing idea and community of taking Bitcoin beyond just store of value, being a full medium of exchange. And with that, I think it's important to do a little bit of table setting on what Bitcoin brings to the table. So Bitcoin, through its proof of work consensus, unlocked this perfect scarcity by taking energy and bringing it into this beautiful digital gold by solving the Byzantine generals problem. And solving the Byzantine generals problem means aligning all the different actors crypto-economically so they behave honest versus behave Byzantine. And this is what Satoshi really brought to the world with proof of work. There's also perfect scarcity in Bitcoin. We've all heard the meme, there'll only ever be 21 million Bitcoin, and it has this beautiful hard ratchet monetary policy where every 4 years, like tomorrow, we do this thing called the halvening, where the Bitcoin block reward gets cut in half. And with that, the network will eventually have to survive just on transaction fees. But it's very easy to understand, very different than something like the US Fed. Since I first got involved in crypto, the amount of crypto applications has exploded. I remember when it was just Bitcoin. Then we had the rise of Ethereum, CryptoKitties, we have Solana, we've had NFTs, you name it, it's all come to pass. And the rate of change in crypto is only accelerating. But in the Bitcoin space, it's largely remained the same. We've had Taproot, we've had SegWit, so we've had some major protocol upgrades, but the core protocol really remains unchanged. However, Bitcoin is still easily the dominant asset by market cap. It's around 50% today, and if the cycle continues to go as it is, this might actually continue to expand. And I think there's a little bit of square in the circle there. How do we justify lack of technical innovation but still being the dominant asset? Well, the demand for Bitcoin is only growing. And we've seen, especially in such uncertain economic times, having this non-sovereign store value has global appeal. And now with the advent of the spot Bitcoin ETFs, everyone now can have access to the next best thing of spot Bitcoin. We've had the largest fund managers in the world. We've had people in their retirement accounts. Now everybody can hold Bitcoin. If you can self-custody, you should still do that. But for some people, you can't, and this is the next best thing. Bitcoin is also now legitimized. It's now part of the financial system. There's also a ton of demand for new utility on top of Bitcoin. And we really saw this start early last year with ordinals, which are NFTs on Bitcoin. And then we saw BRC20s, now Rines, these programmable token standards. People are trying to do more with their Bitcoin. They want more than just digital gold. But with these new use cases, we're starting to bend Bitcoin and maybe contort it into some ways that it wasn't meant to be originally used. And with that, we've driven up the transaction fees very far. And in general, we're kind of causing this tension in the Bitcoin community. Because Bitcoin is naturally slow and expensive. It's this digital settlement layer. And that's one of the reasons that it succeeded so well of being digital gold. However, this is a challenge as people want more utility but can't necessarily do all these things on the Bitcoin base layer. And if I was to summarize, Bitcoin's a $1 trillion asset today. It has no native staking yield, no smart contracts, financial primitives, and is not very scalable. So we're kind of locked out of these traditional use cases on Bitcoin. And we're now in a new wave of Bitcoin scaling. There was the fork wars starting in 2017 with BSV, Bitcoin Cash. They were parasitic, limited scalability, and no smart contracts. Then we had the experimentation phase. Stacks pre-Nakamoto, we have RSK, limited smart contracts, very limited scalability, and it's kind of neutral to Bitcoin. Now we're in the alignment phase, which is how do we benefit Bitcoin, be independently scalable, and have full smart contracts? And if I was to characterize this new wave, it's separating Bitcoin the asset from Bitcoin the rail itself. And there's no contradiction here. We can still have Bitcoin, this perfect digital gold, exist in these other systems that are higher throughput and lower fee, and still have Bitcoin be this digital settlement layer for high-value transactions where expensiveness isn't really as much of a concern. And this is what Core is trying to do. It's trying to unlock this on top of Bitcoin. Core launched in early 2023, so before Bitcoin got cool again. There's been 15 million plus addresses. There's been a couple 100 million transactions. There's over 5 million Core holders in a massive community. And if I was to summarize why Core started in 2023, it was because we've been in Bitcoin for a long time, and no one was trying to scale Bitcoin, so we said, hey, we should do it ourselves. It's also important when I talk about kind of the design behind Core, the guiding principles. And Core was designed to be for all Bitcoin holders, and that's really important. Because we're trying to unlock $1 trillion, we can't be subdividing. We have to have solutions and products that answer the needs of all of these different people who have different trust assumptions, risk thresholds, and we have options from staking all the way to full BTC-Fi to kind of handle those different needs. On top of it, it had to be Bitcoin aligned. It had to give back to Bitcoin. We need to keep Bitcoin secure and decentralized for all these other pieces to flourish on top of it. And there's two ways to do that. Additional transaction fees or with additional block rewards that go to the Bitcoin holders as well as the Bitcoin miners to help with that transaction fee only model that we discussed earlier. Finally, it had to be community driven. It had to have the community in mind and be a fair launch. Fair launch was so critical to the success of Bitcoin. The holders were the early users of the network, and the community strength of any project is really what helps deliver long-term value, and Core is no exception. The Core Toshis I'd stack up with any of the communities in crypto. And it's helpful to think about kind of with three different lenses. Unlocking Bitcoin the network, Bitcoin the asset, and then BTC-Fi, or Bitcoin DeFi for short. So Bitcoin the network. Satoshi Plus consensus is a novel consensus mechanism that we brought to the world early last year. It has three parts. It has non-custodial Bitcoin staking, delegated proof of work, and then delegated proof of stake. And for the delegated proof of work component, Bitcoin miners produce blocks on the Bitcoin chain, and they add a little bit of data to it. For non-custodial Bitcoin staking, you issue a time lock on the Bitcoin L1. Both are totally trustless and auditable and verifiable on your favorite Bitcoin block explorer. And then the delegated core staking happens just on the core chain. But the idea is we take these three different ingredients, we run a function over it, and that's how we elect our validator set. And for helping to secure the core chain, all these different participants earn core rewards. And these core rewards, they can either invest in the core ecosystem or they can invest in additional Bitcoin or Bitcoin OPEX. And the idea being a secure and decentralized Bitcoin is a secure and decentralized core chain. It's this really nice reflexive loop together. And we're currently halfway there. So there's around 50% of the Bitcoin hash rate currently secure in the core chain. For just being a year off launch, that's pretty good, but we call it the road to 100, and we won't be happy until we get to all 100%. Talking about Bitcoin the asset. So we announced yesterday that non-custodial Bitcoin staking went live. This is a one-of-a-kind product where it's totally trustless on the Bitcoin chain. So you issue a time lock to yourself, and you provably lock up that Bitcoin capital. It then gets relayed over to the core chain, and in doing so, we've helped make Bitcoin a yield-producing asset for the first time. With Bitcoin being a yield-producing asset for the first time, it's going to unlock a wave of new DeFi opportunities with this new financial primitive. We're super excited about it. There's also Core BTC, which is the enshrined bridge of the core chain. It's an over-collateralized bridge, and on top of it, we think that this can become the Bitcoin for DeFi, although we do welcome all Bitcoin derivatives on top of Core. Finally, talking about BTC-Fi. So far, again, I talked about earlier, the TVL of Bitcoin is so small relative to these other Ethereum-based assets, stablecoins, et cetera, but the market cap of Bitcoin is still easily the largest. So we think over this next cycle, this graph is going to change dramatically, and Bitcoin is actually going to become the dominant asset by TVL. It's just math. It's $1 trillion plus today. If only 10 to 30% of that, which is the Ethereum comp, makes it into DeFi, it will easily overwhelm anything we've seen today. And the DeFi landscape is going to be backed by a harder money, and it's going to change dramatically over the next year or two. Core also is fully EVM compatible. If you think about building a healthy developer ecosystem, you have to make it easy. So Core was full EVM from day one, giving us access to the 10 years of institutional tooling, all the tutorials, the amazing developer audience, and it really was an easy choice. It's also helped Core Chain's EVM ecosystem grow rapidly. So there's a whole wave of Bitcoin-centric apps all launching on Core today. There's also a bunch of multi-chain dApps and infrastructure. It's an amazing time to build on Core. Come to our booth, come chat with us. But then on top of it, if you want to participate in these applications, we're running a Core Ignition incentive program, and it pays to be early. Core also has a deep belief that we need to onboard billions of people into Web3, which I know is kind of a trite comment at this point. However, it's really critical for crypto to go mainstream. I refer to the Core team as crypto maxis. What I mean by that is we believe it should be in the hands of everyone, and we have to do our best to get it there. So we've got a couple partnerships that are pretty key on this. So one is Satoshi app, which is a cashless onboarding mechanic. How do people get their first crypto to then go participate in these different ecosystems like Core? There's also Element Wallet, the flagship wallet of the chain that's a native on-chain messenger and P2P payments app. You can think about it like crypto on easy mode. If we're going to onboard tons of users to Web3, it has to be simple and easy. We have to get rid of understanding these really clunky user interfaces. We also announced our first foray into institutional onboarding. We partnered with Valor and announced this yesterday for the first yield-bearing Bitcoin ETP. This is going to be, again, a one-of-a-kind product, and the idea here is yield-bearing Bitcoin products are now available to institutional investors. We're going to take this throughout the world over this year, and we think it's going to usher in, again, a whole new wave of protocols. We also agreed to partner on a Core ETP that we're so excited about. So again, to summarize, Core is trying to unlock the $1 trillion of trapped Bitcoin liquidity. It's got native staking yield, smart contracts, financial primitives, and it's extremely scalable. Best-in-class scalability of any sidechain or any Bitcoin L2, launched or unlaunched. And it's an amazing time to get involved. So I want to take you back to where we started, thinking about 10 years ago. And it's totally fine if, over the last 10 years, maybe you did try to become a trader. Or maybe you trusted a centralized lending group that might not be around anymore. Or maybe you didn't participate at all. Well, now is the perfect time to get involved in the Bitcoin economy. With Core, you can earn more Bitcoin through passive yield, through participating in DeFi protocols. Really, the possibilities are endless, and now is a fantastic time to get involved. So thanks so much for the time, and join the Core ecosystem.